jaw is literally on the floor right now. I don't even know how to explain what just happened in that episode. Guys, I'm going to be reviewing to you Once Upon a Time, Season 3, Episode 11, Going Home. And this episode was amazing. It was the best episode of the season. And now we're right back to where we started with this show from the beginning. It's pretty crazy, and I don't even know how to process this episode. It was so amazing. Everyone was really great in this episode, and I really love the way everything wrapped up. So in the beginning, it was kind of like the flashback episode where we got a lot of flashbacks. For a while, I didn't know why, but then it all seemed to link together. So it started right where the last one left off. We saw Pan and Felix. And Pan is telling Felix how he needs somebody's heart to complete the curse, and he ends up taking out Felix's heart, and that's the story of that, basically. So Felix is now dead, which I was fine with. I didn't really care about Felix. I don't think anybody really gave a shit about him, but whatever. So after all this happens, we see that we go to a flashback with the Blue Fairy, and they're very upset that the Blue Fairy has died and everything. They're really upset about that. And we see that basically, we find out that the Blue Fairy actually, there was this thing called the Black Fairy. The Black Fairy basically is this person that the Blue Fairy, was like forbidden and everything. And what happens is basically that the shadow comes. Basically what happens is that Rumpelstiltskin, David, Tinkerbell, and Hook, they all go to visit the church where the Blue Fairy's funeral is being held, and Pan's shadow is there to just attack all of them, and it's about to attack all of them, and they don't know what to do exactly. Oh, but before this, we actually got how Tinkerbell and Hook met. So Hook was wandering through Neverland and everything, and Tinkerbell was about to cut his throat because Pan had told her to, but they actually end up becoming friends and everything, and that's basically how they met. So that was definitely interesting to see how they met. So that was really great, and what we found out was that basically the only person who could stop the shadow was Tinkerbell because of the pixie dust. So she puts the pixie dust, and then she takes the candle and she sucks the shadow right into the candle, and that is how the shadow dies. So now that Pan's shadow has died off, the Blue Fairy is now alive, and the Blue Fairy is going to try to help them out. Problem is, though, that, so yeah, that was definitely very interesting, the way we found that all out. So then after this, we got another flashback. Oh, we got a flashback after this to when, we got a flashback to when Henry first got the book of all the fairy tales, because that's where we've been, and they're all worried about the curse and everything, that the curse is coming back, so that was definitely interesting to see. We find out that the book was given to him by Mary Margaret. That was definitely really big, and I definitely found that very interesting, that was how he got the book. I would have never expected it that way, but that was definitely really cool. So after this, we see they go to, so yeah, as I said, it was like Flashback City on this episode. There were flashback after flashback after flashback. It was pretty crazy. So after this, they have to find a way to now kill Pan, so they decide to put this thing on Henry that separates him and Pan, and Henry's back, but Pan is now there, and Rumpelstiltskin stays there, so Rumpelstiltskin stays with Pan, and what ends up happening is Pan has this, thing on him, because, as we know, Rumpelstiltskin took all his powers away, but Pan finds a way to put it right on Rumpelstiltskin, so now Rumpelstiltskin is powerless, and we get this scene after this where Belle and Rumpelstiltskin met, and it, not really met, but it was like a cute scene between them from the past, and it was a cute scene. I enjoyed that scene. But we see that basically he's powerless, but he finds out that basically, and also Regina has now passed out at this point. We don't know what's happened to her, but she just passes out. She passes out, she goes unconscious, and I don't know what was going on at this point. I'm like, what's going on here? So, we see Rumpelstiltskin, he's about to do something to his hand. I thought he was going to cut his hand off, but it turns out that he somehow gets out, and he finds out that he also, as we know, in the beginning of the season, he cut out his shadow. So he basically remembers that, and he decides that he cut his shadow, so the only way to kill Pan is to kill himself. Now, this was just a huge scene. I was so impressed with what they did with this scene. It was so good. We see him saying goodbye to Balefire and to Belle, and it's so sad. But you know what? He killed himself for those people who loved him. And what I loved is that Pan ends up turning back into an old man. So Pan is now turned back into an old man, and he says, well, we could start a future together, we could have a happy ending. And he says, I'm a villain, we don't get happy endings. And that's how he died. And I was like, yes! That is the way to go. Now, I was upset that Rumpelstiltskin actually died, but I don't think he died because of what ends up happening next. I do think he's somehow going to come back because of what ends up happening next. We see that they're all lamenting over him being dead and everything, and they realize that the curse is coming right now. One of the dwarves scream, they say, it's back, we gotta get out. So they try to find a way to get out. And Regina realizes that the only way to stop that, she was the one who casted the curse. And she thinks, so wait a minute, if I casted the curse, maybe I could also undo it. Now, she knows she can't undo it, but there's something else she plans on doing. And this right here had my jaw dropping on the floor at this point. I didn't know what was going to happen. She says that she had to say goodbye. Now, I thought that she was going to leave Storybrooke and then we wouldn't have to worry about this anymore. Instead, but that's not what happens at all. Instead, what she does is she tells Emma and Henry that basically she's going to destroy the curse by making it seem like Storybrooke never existed. So Storybrooke never existed, and Emma and Henry have said goodbye, and everyone will go back to Fairy Tale Land, and that's what's going to happen. They're all going to go back to Fairy Tale Land. But the problem is that it's going to wipe all of their memories, and they're not going to remember anything. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I didn't know what was going to happen. So then we basically see Emma's birth, of how she gave birth to Henry, and how she said, I want to put him up for adoption and everything, and I thought that was definitely really, really big. But Regina ends up changing the flashback. Now, the other thing that I liked was that they did get their final goodbyes. She gets her final goodbye to Mary Margaret and David, so that was really sad. But we do see that she leaves Storybrooke with Henry, and as soon as she leaves, the flashback changes. So instead of her giving up Henry, she's had Henry all this time. They have this apartment now in New York. We go to 1 year later, and there they are now. They're living in New York now, and that was definitely very interesting to see them just living in New York there, and seems like they're having a great life and everything. Storybrooke is gone. They're just in New York. They don't have any memory of anything that happened. She hears this knock on the door. Now, I thought it was going to be Regina or Rumpelstiltskin. It turns out to be Hook. Now, Hook basically is there because he tries to kiss her to fall back in love with her, but it doesn't work. And he tells her that there's a great evil there. There's something has gone wrong. We don't know what's gone wrong, but something has gone wrong in Fairy Tale Land, and he needs her help. So obviously, the people in Fairy Tale Land still remember Emma. That's what I'm trying to think here. I'm thinking their memories were not wiped. It was only Emma and Henry's memories that were wiped. And Emma has no idea what's going on here. She slams the door in Hook's face, and she goes back to eating breakfast with Henry. And then the episode cuts to black. So I loved this episode. I love that we basically started where the show we basically ended where the show began. She doesn't know anything. Emma knows nothing now. Everybody's back in Fairy Tale Land, and it looks like now Elphaba's going to be introduced, and she's going to be the next big villain of the show. I also loved Pan's demise. For a while there, I didn't know if Pan was going to, actually succeed on the show, which he technically did, but I don't know. Also, what happened to Ariel and all of them? Are we going to see them anymore? As far as Storybrooke being gone, I'm fine with that. I just really am happy that we're back here. I was so impressed with this finale. I thought it was such a great finale, and it was by far the best episode of the season. I know a lot of people are upset that Rumpelstiltskin died, but I'm thinking that now that Fairy Tale Land is back, all the events in Storybrooke never happened. That's what I'm assuming. I'm assuming that all the events in Storybrooke never happened, and that's what Regina said. She said Storybrooke never existed, it never happened, so maybe Rumpelstiltskin is still alive. That's what I'm thinking. So we're definitely going to see what happens, and I'm definitely interested. March 9th is when this show comes back. I have to wait till March 9th, and I cannot wait for this show. I don't want to wait. I know they have these hiatuses and everything, and I know they want you to wait, but I really don't want to wait for this show. I love it so much, and I don't want to wait for it. But I'm so impressed with this finale. I could talk about this whole time, and I'm just so excited to see what's going to happen next. So let me know what you guys saw this episode. I'm sorry I'm so excited about it. I went into total shock in this episode. What'd you think of them basically just changing everything? Do you think Rumpelstiltskin will be alive now? Do you think the people in Fairy Tale Land remember Emma? It seemed like Hook remembers her, so we'll have to see what happens there. Do you think Emma's eventually going to remember everything? I do think eventually they're going to find a way for her to remember everything. And also, is everything going to be different, Now, now everyone's back in Fairy Tale Land. How are they going to get from New York City to Fairy Tale Land? Because it seems like that's what's going to happen now. And I really like that they're in 2 different locations. It's definitely really cool. So that's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys in the next video, which will be for Witches of East End. So see you then. Bye.